The counter tells me I have one viewer waiting, but as I've often discovered, YouTube numbers don't mean anything. So give me a shout if you're there and if you can hear me all right. Hello. Excellent. Welcome back. Thank you so much if you're available to join me on this Easter Sunday evening because the Thursday evening scheduled live stream didn't work. I don't know who is actually around. My parents hosted us for Passover dinner yesterday evening, and we were invited to another family dinner, Easter dinner, in Midtown Toronto this evening, but I may be getting a wee bit covetous of my time at home since I'm staying at a comfort inn throughout the work week right now. So we weren't quite feeling up for the drive all the way into the city and all the way back again today. But I am available to read Animorphs before going back to the comfort inn through the work week where the Wi-Fi is being imposed upon by rather a lot of people from my work crew. Also, I have it on some good internet authority that the 90s are the fashion style again. So I have finally held on to most of my clothing from high school long enough for this to be the thing again. So yeah, that is just how this summer's gonna go. Yeah, I made it through a cycle. Okay, I don't know if there will be anybody else joining us. So without further preamble, we have reached the first of the Megamorphs book. Megamorphs #1, The Andalite's Gift. So, the interior cover. All right. I won't offer much recap because I'm pretty sure we're going to get it in the first couple of chapters. But by all means, Matthew, if you would like to try to recall some of the tidbits of information we have about the Yeerk invasion of planet Earth so far, go for that. But you're probably working on a cross stitch, so never mind. Animorphs, Megamorphs #1, The Andalite's Gift by K.A. Applegate. The dedication on this one is for Jean Fywell, Craig Walker, and Tanya Alicia Martin, who morph my scribbles into books. I imagine that makes them the typesetters and designers at the publishing house. And as always, for Michael. Chapter 1, Jake. My name is Jake, just Jake, no last name, or at least no last name I can tell you. I am an Animorph. I guess that makes me one of the most hunted, endangered species on Earth. The Yeerks want me dead. They want my friends dead. So if they knew who I was and how to find me, I wouldn't have a chance. That's why I won't tell you my last name, and I won't tell you what city or state I live in, because I want to go on living. I want to go on living so I can go on fighting them. Are you one of those people who looks up at the night sky and wonders whether there's life out there among the stars? Do you wonder about UFOs? Do you wonder whether aliens will ever come to Earth? Well, stop wondering. The Yeerks are here. They're a species of parasites, just little slugs, really. Little slugs that crawl inside your head and wrap themselves around your brain and make you do whatever they want you to do. When that happens, you stop being a true human being. You become a controller. That's what we call a human who is under the control of a yerk. When you talk to a controller, you may be looking at a human face, you may hear a human voice, but what you're really talking to is a yerk, and they are everywhere. If you think you haven't seen one, you're wrong. The policeman in his patrol car, the clerk at the grocery store, your teacher, your pastor, your doctor. Any of them might be a controller. Your mother, father, sister, or best friend. They could all be controllers. I know. My brother Tom is one of them. They have taken my brother from me and made him an enemy. I sit at the breakfast table every morning and make small talk, knowing all the while that Tom is not Tom anymore. And they've taken my best friend's mother. Everyone thinks Marco's mother is dead. Only he and I know the truth. She, too, is one of them. They are everywhere. They can be anyone. They tear lives apart. They do unspeakable things. And we stand against them alone. Only we know the threat. We six. 5 Animorphs and 1 Andalite. 5 human kids with the power to become any animal we can touch, and a kid from another planet who looks like some weird mix of deer, human, and scorpion. The 6 of us against all the might of the Yerks and all the evil genius of their leader, Visser 3. Which is why Rachel was worried about leaving, even for a weekend. We were all together that Friday evening. Marco, Cassie, Tobias, Rachel, and me. Axe wasn't there because he would have had to change into his human morph. He doesn't like to become human. I think he feels naked without his deadly tail. So it was just the 5 of us in Cassie's barn, surrounded by all the chattering, snuffling, chirping, preening, and smelling animals in their cages. The barn is also the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Cassie's parents are veterinarians. They use their barn to take in sick or injured wild animals. It's just the stupid 2-day gymnastics camp I signed up for a long time ago, Rachel was saying. It's no big deal. It's something I was going to do back, before. Rachel, you should go, Cassie said. Our entire lives cannot be about fighting the Yerks. We have to at least try to be semi-normal. I mean, it can't all be danger and battle and fear, right? So go. But for now, help me lift up this crow's cage. He's going up on that shelf. Yeah, that one. Cassie was trying to get us to help clean up the barn. We used the barn to get together. It was one of the few places we could meet with Tobias. See, he can't exactly go to the mall. Crows, Tobias said, in thought speak that we heard only in our minds. I can't believe you're saving a crow. I hate crows. You know how he probably got that broken wing? Trying to mob a respectable hawk, that's how. Crows are total punks. Tobias was perched high in the rafters of the barn. From up there, he could fly in and out through the hayloft. Tobias is a red-tailed hawk. Actually, in his mind, in his soul, he is human, but the power to morph has a terrifying downside. Stay in a morph for more than 2 hours, and you stay forever. Tobias was trapped forever in a body with long, powerful wings, ripping, taloned feet, and fierce, angry eyes that stared at you around his hooked beak. You would never guess that he had once been such a gentle guy. I guess he still is that guy, but he's also a hawk. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Crow, Tobias said in mock threat. Obviously, the crow did not understand thought speech. Cassie smiled. Tobias, I promise when we release this guy, we'll take him far away from your territory. I already told Melissa Chapman I wasn't going, Rachel said, going back to her own topic. She went up to the camp this afternoon, right after school. Marco, who had been lying back on a big bale of hay and staring at the ceiling, sat up. Rachel doesn't think we can survive without her for 2 days. After all, she is the mighty Xeno warrior princess. It was Marco's teasing name for Rachel. Rachel has a tendency to be very bold. Anytime there's something borderline insane that needs to be done, Rachel is always the first to volunteer. Marco, you have hay stuck in your hair, Rachel said. He ignored her remark. Rachel thinks if she's not here and we have trouble, we'll all just run screaming and yammering like a bunch of scared little kids. He put on a phony, serious expression. All I want to know is this. Why don't you dress like Xena? I mean, the whole leather and sword thing, it would really work for you. Okay, shut up. I'll go, Rachel said. I'll go. I'm going. Just to get away from Marco for a couple of days. I'll catch the bus tomorrow morning. Think of me when you're on the uneven parallel bars, Marco said. But it wasn't to Marco that Rachel looked. It was to Tobias. You guys will stay out of trouble while I'm gone, won't you? We'll be fine, Rachel, Tobias said. I saw Cassie smile, and I saw Cassie smile, and my gaze met hers. She gave a slight nod. Cassie has a theory that Rachel and Tobias like each other. Not that Rachel has ever said anything, even though Rachel and Cassie are best friends. Cassie thinks it's sweet and romantic. I just think it's kind of sad. I mean, as far as we know, Tobias will never be fully human again. We should all just enjoy a nice, normal weekend, I said. Have normal fun. We've had plenty of danger and excitement. Marco sent me a sly, resentful look. Some of us are going to have more fun than some others. Some of us are going to pool parties that some of us were not invited to. He shook his fist melodramatically at the ceiling. Why? Why? What does that girl have against me? I rolled my eyes. Here we go again. Cassie rescued me. I need someone strong to come outside with me. Help me carry in some new cages from the truck. Marco? Oh, my back, Marco cried. A sudden shooting pain. I'm coming, Cassie, I said. I gave Marco a shove, pushing him back onto his bale of hay. You are so pathetic. Don't strain yourself, Marco said with a cocky grin. Outside, out of the golden glow of the barn's lights, it was getting dark. A full moon had risen, and you could just see the first stars off to the east. The pickup truck was piled precariously high with wire cages. I climbed up and began to untie the rope that held them in place. It seems strange, Rachel going away, even for a couple of days, Cassie said. And it seems even stranger that it would seem strange. I mean, it should be no big deal. Well, I guess when life turns completely crazy, it's the normal things that start to seem strange. Cassie nodded slowly. For a while, she said nothing. She just stood there with her arms crossed, looking up at the moon. I climbed down off the truck. What's bothering you? She shrugged. Nothing, just a feeling. I don't know. Bad dreams, I guess. I have those too, I said. We all do. You can't live through all this and not have it bother you. What's the dream about? The ant thing? We'd morphed ants once. We'd gone down into an ant tunnel and had been attacked by an enemy colony of ants. No one wanted to go through that ever again. Not ever. No, not the ants, Cassie said. At least, not directly. It's dumb. There's something. I don't even know what it is, but it's not a good thing. And it asked me to make a choice. In the dream, I have to decide who lives and who dies. I moved closer to Cassie and put my arm around her shoulder. There were goosebumps on her bare arms. I never used to be afraid, Jake, Cassie said. Not of anything. And now it's like I'm afraid all the time. You deal with it, though, I said. It made me nervous, talking about feelings like this. I think if you just don't talk about the fear, it will go away. You always deal with it, I repeated. So far, Cassie said softly. So far. Chapter 2. Rachel. My name is Rachel. I live with my mom and my two little sisters. We live pretty close to Jake, who lives pretty close to Marco. Cassie is the farthest one out because she lives on a farm. I guess we're a pretty average bunch of kids. I mean, we were a pretty average bunch. Marco lives with his dad. I live with my mom. Jake and Cassie each have both parents around. We go to school. We do homework. We hang out at the mall. We listen to music. We go to movies on the weekend. Normal. Boringly average. Until one night when we happened to hook up together at the mall and decided to take a shortcut through an abandoned construction site off the highway. We weren't a group back then. Jake is my first cousin, but we didn't really see each other except at school. Cassie was my best friend, and had been for a long time. But Marco was just Jake's friend, not mine. And Tobias was this guy Jake felt sorry for because he came from such a messed up home life and got picked on by bullies. That's Jake. When he sees some guy getting his head stuffed into a toilet at school, he is absolutely going to stop it. Jake isn't some big tough guy or anything. It's just that when he tells you in that calm, reasonable voice of his to stop picking on someone, you stop. You just do. Jake is sort of the one in charge. It's not something he ever wanted. It just seems natural for him to take over. Not that Jake is without his own level of stupidity. I mean, he was right there with us, walking through an isolated, abandoned construction site that night. Wasn't the smartest thing any of us ever did. But the way it turned out, the real danger that night was not from some mad slasher. The real danger was from a totally unexpected direction. See, that's where the damaged Andalite spaceship landed, right there in the construction site. That's where we saw our first alien. That's where we learned about the Yerk threat. And that's where the Andalite prince, Alfangor, gave us our power to morph. It's where Alfangor died, too. We watched it happen. We watched that brave, decent, kind creature be murdered by Visser 3, murdered for trying to protect the people of Earth. Anyway, that's when we became a group. It was Marco who came up with a name for what we were. Animorphs. Persons who can morph animals. The Andalite left us the burden of fighting the Yerks and gave us that one weapon, the power to morph. Like all weapons, it has dangers, even to those who use it for good cause. Just ask Tobias. But it is an awesome power. We have done some damage to the Yerks, and to be honest with you, sometimes the morphing power is just plain fun. Right now, though, my normal life was calling. It was already getting warm by the time I walked over to school the next morning. The bus to the camp was due to come at 11 o'clock. I got to school an hour early. I stopped on the sidewalk in front of the school and checked my watch. The sun was climbing fast, and you could tell it was going to be a really hot day. I smiled. It would be a good day for flying. I crossed the athletic field and headed for the woods behind the school. I wanted to check in with Tobias before I left. It's no big thing. It's just that I kind of take care of stuff Tobias needs. I bring him books sometimes. Things he can't get in the woods. But Tobias isn't always an easy guy to find, especially in the morning when he's likely to be out hunting for his breakfast. I knew I would need great eyes and speed to find him and still get back in time to catch the bus. It's funny how it never even occurred to me that I was in a very dangerous position. See, my mom and my friends all thought I was heading to camp. They wouldn't expect to They wouldn't expect to see me for a couple of days. But the camp people didn't think I was coming. So they wouldn't expect to see me either. But none of this occurred to me. After all, what did I have to worry about? Little did I know. So I entered the woods, put my outer clothing in my bag, hid it beneath some low-lying bushes, and took a quick look around to make sure I was alone. Then I began to morph. I focused my mind on one of the many animals whose DNA was a part of me. Every morphing is unique. The changes never happen the same way twice. This time, the first thing to change was my mouth. My lips grew hard and stiff, and when I rolled my eyes downward, I could see my mouth become bright yellow and bulge outward. As that happened, I began to shrink. The pine needle covered ground came up toward me as I lost a foot of height within a few seconds, then another foot. Sorry. The strangest thing, though, was my skin. The flesh on my bare arms began to melt like candle wax. It melted and ran together. It formed intricate patterns, like a tattoo of feathers. Suddenly, the painted feather patterns were no longer just designs. Actual feathers began to emerge. The feathers were dark brown, except for the ones that replaced my blonde hair and the skin on my face and neck. Those feathers were all snowy white. By the time the morph was nearly complete, I only stood about 2 feet tall. My feet had split open and formed yellow talons, each of which ended in a wicked hooked claw. My arms rose up, horizontal. Long feathers sprouted from them, even as my solid, heavy human bones became hollowed and light. It took just a few minutes for the transformation to be done. I was no longer human. I was a bald eagle. I turned to face the breeze and opened my wings. They stretched 6 feet from tip to tip. I felt the wind press against my feathers. Stretching my muscles, I flapped several times with great power, and then I was airborne. I drew my talons up snug against my body. I flapped and rose. I flapped more and soared above the trees. The top branches reached for me but missed. I flapped still more and caught a good strong headwind. It was like an invisible wedge that forced me up and up. Up and up, I rose until I was several hundred feet above the treetops. I could see the school down below. I could see the bus parked in the empty lot. And, being an eagle, I could see a great deal more. Looking through the eyes of an eagle is like having built-in binoculars. From hundreds of feet in the air, I could see field mice just poking their noses out of their holes. I could see ants crawling up the trunks of trees. I could look down through the water of a stream and see the tiny fish feeding there. I could see everything, like no human will ever see. I turned toward the deeper woods where Tobias lived. Maybe there is something better than flying free, high above the trees, riding the wind, but I doubt it. It was freedom beyond any dream of freedom. I loved it. For all the pain that has come from the war with the Yerks, I swear sometimes just being able to fly makes it all worthwhile. I was close to Tobias's territory when I spotted something interesting below me. It was a deer-like animal running swiftly through the trees. When I focused my laser intensity eagle sight, I could see the semi-human torso and face and the deadly scorpion tail. Axe, or Aximili Escarouth Isthil, to use his complete name. Axe is an Andalite, the only Andalite. Sorry. Axe is an Andalite, the only Andalite to survive a terrible space battle with the Yerks. Prince Elfangor was his brother. It was fun watching him run. I've never seen anything that can look as delicate and cute one minute and as dangerous the next as an Andalite. I decided to swoop down over Axe to say hi. I spilled a little air from my wings. I spilled a little air from my wings and dropped, thrilled by the feeling of a controlled fall from hundreds of feet up. It's like jumping off a skyscraper knowing you can survive. I dropped toward the trees. I actually had time to notice the nest in a high branch, just out of the corner of my eye. I had time to think, isn't that cute? Baby birds. And then they hit me. Swoop, swoop. Faster than me, more agile. Small dark birds zipped straight at me like they were going to hit. Too many of them. Swoop, swoop, swoop. I turned a hard left. In a flash, I knew what was happening. They thought I was attacking their nest. They were mobbing me, trying to drive me off. I banked a hard turn. Too fast. I Too fast. I was still going fast from the dive. Too fast. Bank left. Turn. Wham! I barely saw the tree trunk before I hit. Head first. Down I fell. Down through the branches that tore at me, banged me, slapped me, ripped at my feathers. I hit the ground hard. I was hurt. I knew I was hurt. Fading out. My mind was swimming. Human thoughts, eagle instinct. all swirling, shifting. I was falling down, down a dark well, down. Morph out, I told myself. Rachel, morph out. And then I was gone. Chapter 3. Marco. Look, it's simple, I explained patiently. There's this party, this pool party, and I was not invited. Not only was I not invited, but the girl who's having the party went out of her way to not invite me. By the way, hi, my name is Marco. I'm an Animorph too. I'm the smart, cute one. No, seriously. Jake is the bossy one, Cassie's the nice one, Rachel's the stupidly brave one, and Tobias is a bird. I am the cute one. All the girls think so. All except Darlene. So you are not wanted at this party, but you want to go anyway. That was Axe speaking. Well, not exactly speaking. He's an Andalite, and Andalites don't have mouths. They do thought speech. It's like telepathy. We can all do it when we're in a morph, but for Andalites, it's their normal language. Axe's real name is Aximili Escarouth Isthil. Rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Now you know why we just call him Axe. That's right, I explained to him. I mean, Jake and Cassie were both invited. Rachel was invited, but she's going to that stupid gymnastics thing. Basically, everyone at school was invited. All I'm saying is there must be a reason why I was not invited, and I think I know what that reason is. Darlene likes me. There's no other possible explanation. Axe looked puzzled. Is that common among humans? Do they avoid the ones they like? Not like. Like. I like you, Axe, but I don't like you. There's like, and then there's like. Axe stared at me with his main eyes. He has 4 eyes altogether. 2 of them are fairly normal. The other 2 eyes are on these stalk-like things that stick out of the top of his head, like those little horns a giraffe has. On the end of each stalk, he has an eye, which he can point in any direction. Very weird. But you can't sneak up on the guy, that's for sure. I am confused, Axe said. It's okay, you don't need to understand. I just want you to go with me. To the party? That's right. We have to go to the party to see what Darlene says about me. She and her cheerleader friend, they're probably going to be talking about me. I want to hear what they say. And you want me to go with you? Yeah, you and me. I need someone to watch my back. But Prince Jake will be at the party, won't he? I rolled my eyes. Axe is convinced Jake is his prince. I guess Andalites are into the whole royalty thing? Yes, Jake will be there. But Jake's not going to help me spy on Darlene, is he? Neither will Cassie. Cassie doesn't exactly fit in with the cheerleader crowd. They talk about clothes and guys. Cassie talks about animals and saving the world or whatever. Pardon me if I sound skeptical, and please do not be offended, Axe said, but I sense that maybe this is a dishonorable idea. You sense right, Axe. Tobias. He zipped swiftly overhead and landed on a low branch. He was carrying something in his beak. Hi, Tobias, I said. Do you have it? Yes. Yes. And do you know how hard it is to fly around with a live squirming mouse in my beak? Drop it down to me, I said. You are a twisted, devious human being, Marco, Tobias said. Axe, if you have any sense, you will not get involved in this. Sorry. Tobias, I am suffering. I have small, itching bumps on parts of my body. Marco has agreed to help me if I will help him. He has a rare medicine that will help. Marco, you're blackmailing Axe with flea powder? Axe, my friend, you just picked up a couple of fleas. It's normal in the woods. Don't let Marco jerk you. Just give me the mouse and stop acting like a parent, I interrupted. I'm not blackmailing anyone. I'll bring Axe the flea powder. Jeez, the suspicion around here. Sorry, I almost gave Marco a Sylvester the Cat voice for a second there. I mean, anybody who speaks the word suspicious might fall to that fate. Tobias dropped the mouse, and I caught it with one hand. It squirmed, and I almost dropped it. But as I began to acquire it, it calmed down. See, if you want to morph into an animal, you have to acquire it first. You have to make contact. Then you sort of focus on it, concentrate on it. The animal goes into a trance. And meanwhile, the animal's DNA is being absorbed. Don't ask me how it works. It's some weird Andalite biotechnology. I just know it works. When I was done acquiring the mouse, I handed it to Axe. He had to use both hands to hold on. Andalite arms and hands are kind of puny. Of course, they also have 4 legs, and those are all pretty strong. I mean, Axe can haul when he wants to. I'll bet he could do 40 miles an hour. Then there's that tail. The tail is the reason Andalites will never be considered truly cute. I've seen Axe use his tail on a full-grown Hork-Bajir warrior. And fast. Man, you don't even see it move. It's like whap! And all of a sudden, the Hork-Bajir only has one arm. I believe Axe could chop down a tree with that tail if he felt like it. Marco, you know Jake will roast you alive behind this. Yep, that's what it says. You know Jake will roast you alive behind this, Tobias said. Morphing for personal reasons? Hey, Jake was invited to the party, all right? He'll be soaking up the rays at poolside. He'll be having a good time. Meanwhile, I, his best friend, was not even invited. Jake is big on justice. I ask you this. Is this justice? No, clearly not. Marco, Jake says the last time you were invited to one of Darlene's pool parties, you floated a Baby Ruth bar in the pool and told everyone it was, I'm just saying, maybe that's why you weren't invited? I was like 6 years old, I protested. I didn't know any better. Besides, it was funny. Marco, you were not 6, you were 10. Whatever, who even remembers this stuff? Darlene does. I ignored Tobias. Are you done acquiring the mouse? I asked Axe. If so, give him back to Tobias for lunch. I've eaten, thanks, Tobias said. But you shouldn't laugh. I've eaten, thanks, Tobias said. But you shouldn't laugh. You want to go play mouse? You better remember something. There are a lot of predators who enjoy eating mice. It's a dangerous world out there. And who would know that better than you, Mr. Predator? Tobias laughed. Even we predators get ours sometimes. Even we predators get ours sometimes. I saw a bald eagle get mobbed by a bunch of jays this morning, slammed into a tree. I guess the eagle was going after their nest. There won't be any eagles at the party, I said. The bird world is your problem, dude. I have a party to attend. Darlene likes him, Axe said, but she doesn't like him. That's pretty much how everyone feels about Marco, Tobias said with a laugh. Chapter 4, Jake. I feel bad for even going to this party, I said. Darlene should have invited Marco. He wouldn't have done the Baby Ruth thing again. He's much more mature now. Sort of. I feel a little guilty too, Darlene said. She lowered her voice to a whisper and put her mouth close to my ear. But I seem to remember you saying we should all take the weekend off and be normal. So I'm going to be normal. We were both in our swimsuits, sitting in those long pool chairs. You know, the ones you can adjust so you're lying down or sitting up. There were 40 or 50 kids around the pool. Darlene's family has money, I guess, because it was a very nice pool. There was a long table loaded up with chips and dip and cold cuts, and there were coolers full of iced soft drinks. There was decent rock music playing on the stereo. Some kids were dancing. It wasn't even noon yet, but the sun was already bright. It was going to be hot, that was for sure. I almost envied Rachel heading up to the mountains. It would probably be cooler up there. It feels weird to just sit around and relax, I said. As soon as the words were out of my mouth, I heard a blood-curdling scream. Ah! Someone shrieked. Oh, 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 oh! Someone else cried. I sat straight up, troubled. I could feel the familiar rush of adrenaline. I quickly looked around, checking for the ways to escape, the places where we could stand and fight, the places we might be able to hide for a quick morph. People were running. No, on a closer look, only a couple of the girls were running. They were the ones screaming. That's Darlene, Cassie said. She sent me a puzzled, worried look. Oh, 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 get it away from me! Darlene screamed. Get it away! Darlene ran. Pardon me, my Matthew is coughing. Are you well? He's okay. Darlene ran straight toward us. She ran like the hounds of hell were right behind her. Help me, she screamed. It's after me. What is it? I yelled to no one in particular. Mice, this girl named Tracy yelled. Mice! Then I spotted them, two tiny, harmless little mice. Two little mice, chasing Darlene like a pair of lions trying to bring down a buffalo. Darlene dodged right. The mice went right after her. And then something very interesting happened. This guy named this guy named Hans yelled, "Darlene, run this way! I'll stomp them!" Darlene headed for Hans. Hans raised his foot up, ready to stomp the mice as they shot past. But suddenly, the mice turned a sharp left, shot around behind Hans, and tore off after Darlene again. Right then, I knew. The mice had heard Hans' plan. They had dodged away to safety. Real mice don't chase people, Cassie said, giving me a meaningful look. No, they don't, I agreed. Marco, Cassie whispered. And he must have dragged Axe into it, too. I'll kill him, I said, just as soon as we save him. I raced around the pool. I raced around the pool and tore through a mess of overturned chairs and soda cans and paper plates. Cassie went the other way. Help me! Help me! Darlene screamed, running toward the patio door. Hey! Cassie yelled as loudly as she could. It's just a couple... Hey! It's just a couple of mice. Nothing to be afraid of. One of the mice hesitated. Marco had recognized Cassie's voice. You know, if those mice want to live, they should go to Cassie, I said, trying to sound like I was making a joke. Otherwise, someone might kill them. Then, under my breath, I added, someone like me. I heard that, Marco said to me in thought speech. I could hear his thought speech, but since I was not an amorph, I could not reply. Probably a good thing. I might have used some words I shouldn't use. It was total pandemonium. 40 kids running around like idiots, half running away from the mice, half running after the mice, everyone making lots of noise. Come here, little mice, Cassie said loudly. We were trying to make Marco realize he had to head for Cassie. I knew he could hear us. Mice have excellent hearing. But Marco either didn't get it or had decided he wasn't done chasing Darlene. Ah! Darlene was not done screaming either. She had reached the patio door. She was still screaming as she disappeared inside her house. Marco was after her like a shot, with Axe right behind. Don't worry, I heard Marco say in thought speech a few seconds later. We're down in the basement. Don't worry, we're down in the basement. We're demorphing. Just make sure no one comes down to the basement looking for mice. Oh man, I muttered. I ran for the patio door. Thump! I slammed hard into Hans, and both of us went rolling. No less than 8 other people slammed into us, one right after another. It was like some bad football game, all of us jumbled together, yelling and giggling and pushing and trying to untangle our legs and arms. As it turned out, that pile-up saved my life. I sucked wind and tried to stand up, and the sky above us grew dark. It was so sudden and so complete that everyone just froze. I looked up. The sun was hidden behind a swirling cloud of dust, like a flat tornado, a tornado in a clear sky. Sometimes time is a flat tornado. I felt a terrible sensation of dread from deep down inside. The dust swarm grew solid. Within seconds, it had assumed a shape like nothing ever seen on planet Earth. And then it struck. Chapter 5. Marco. Okay, maybe it was a little immature to sneak into Darlene's party as a mouth. But you didn't hear what she said about me. Me and Axe morphed in a vacant lot a block away. Then we morphed in a vacant lot a block away. Then we toddled on over to our little mouse legs to the party. Of course, first we had to get used to the mouse morph. See, when you morph, you don't just get the animal's body, you get its brain, too. And most animal brains are loaded with different instincts. Usually hunger, also fear. The mouse had a lot of each. He was very obsessed about food. And he was one scared little animal. It's often that way when you first morph a new species. As soon as Axe and I achieved total mousehood, those instincts kicked in big time. Run, 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 run. The mouse didn't like being out in the open, in broad daylight. He is scared of predators. Seriously scared. Run, 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 run. So we ran. It was like 1 minute you're a normal human thinking, isn't it fascinating shrinking down like this, growing a tail, having big whiskers? And the next minute, that mouse brain kicks in, and suddenly you are charged up with the energy of 1,000 cups of coffee on top of 1,000 bowls of Captain Crunch, and you are energized. I cannot control this creature, Axe wailed. It is insane. Just go with it, I said. It'll chill out eventually. Let me tell you, mice can move on those little legs. It was like being strapped to the front bumper of an Indy 500 car. Zoom! We hauled butt, zipping in wild terror over leaves of grass as big as trees. Blades of grass as big as trees, pieces of gravel the size of beach balls, and bugs the size of collies. That much I'm used to. I've morphed small animals before. But what was sick was that I really, really wanted to stop and eat some of those bugs. There was this one beetle, kind of a bluish black, and the mice brain was like, cool, lunch. But it was more terrified than it was hungry, so we just kept running like out of control lunatics, and I missed out on the flavor of bug. Eventually, we were able to get some control. Axe, you okay, man? I called to him in thought speak. I am fine, but these mice have very powerful instincts. Yeah, scared little things, aren't they? Animals do develop instincts for a good reason, Axe said darkly. If the mouse is cautious, it probably has good reasons. Well, if we see any cats, we'll just morph back, I said. Yes, if we live long enough. In any case, we toddled off to the party, 2 little mice looking for a good time. Mouse senses are excellent, fortunately. Hearing is great, the sense of smell is great, the eyes are decent, but it is hard to see much when you're only an inch tall and your face is down at dirt level. Still, I was able to locate Darlene by the sound of her voice. She was talking to her friends about the usual stuff. School, music, some cute guy on TV. Axe and I hid underneath Darlene's chair, so I was able to hear everything pretty well. All I could see of Darlene was this enormous chair roof over my head, stretched bands of interwoven plastic, bulging down like they might burst and crush me. Quite a distance away, I could see her legs, looking like 2 gigantic pink pillars. Well, this is boring, I said to Axe. What did you expect? I expected them to be talking about me, naturally, I said. Then it occurred to me. I could thought speak to Darlene. I would just say the word Marco in her head. She wouldn't know where it had come from. She'd probably think someone else had said it aloud. With thought speak, With thought speech, you can either do it so everyone hears you or sort of aim it at just one person. Marco, I said. What? Darlene asked. What about Marco? Nothing about Marco, this girl named Kara said. Good, because I don't even want his name mentioned at my party. He's such a jerk. I mean, after what he did, throwing baby Ruth bars in my pool, panicking everybody, he is so immature, a girl named Ellen said. No duh, Darlene said. He thinks he's so cool and so cute, but he's totally not. Hmm. He's always making jokes about stuff that really aren't even funny. Well, I could stand them saying I was immature. That's what girls always say. But saying I wasn't funny, I would show them funny. Oh, yes. I took off. I ran for the legs. Axe came after me, yelling, "What is it that we are doing?" Hmm. We're just we're just going to see how good Darlene's sense of humor is, I yelled back. I ran for that big pink leg. I saw the foot pressing heavily down on the grass. I shot past her heel, which was like a wall to me, and aimed for the toes. Let me just say this. Darlene thinks she's perfect in every way, but her toenails need trimming. I scampered right onto her foot. I zoomed across her foot, then scrabbled wildly around her ankle and back over her toes. Yeehaw! I crowed to Axe. That'll give her something else to complain about. Oh, oh, oh! Darlene screamed. Up flew the foot. I jumped off just in time, and then she was out of there, screaming and yammering like a total ninny. Naturally, I chased her, and naturally, Axe came with me. It was total, absolute fun. I'm sorry, I know it was wrong and all, but man, it was so cool. That is, until I heard Hans yelling about how he was going to stomp me. That would never do. I did not intend to be stomped by Hans' big stinky foot. I heard Jake's big voice yelling, and Cassie's sweeter but still annoyed voice. Oh man, it's Jake, I said to Axe. Busted. I raced for cover, looking for a place to morph back to human. Big stomping feet were landing all around me. They were slow, but man, they were big. Everyone was totally overreacting. I mean, give me a break. I was 2 inches long. How scary could I possibly be? Then it occurred to me. The house. We could run inside, race down to the basement where no one would be, morph back real fast, and then... Well, and then there I would be. Just me and an Andalite. Great. That wouldn't look too strange. Axe, stay with me. We need to demorph. Then you have to do your human morph real quick, okay? I have the feeling, Marco, that this was not a good idea. Nah, everything according to plan. Zoom. Over the threshold onto the patio. Zoom. Into the house itself. Zoom. Past an hysterical Darlene, who was on the couch with a pillow over her head. Zoom. Along carpet until we hit linoleum. Suddenly, the scent of dark places. Mouse places. Yes, it was going to work. We ran across a step and leapt, falling, plop, to land onto the next step, again and again, step after step, at a speed that felt like we were flying rockets. It was so cool if you overlooked the fact that it was maybe slightly stupid. Don't worry, I called to Jake in thought speech. We're in the basement. We're going to demorph. Just make sure no one comes down to the basement looking for mice. We lost our pursuers. No one followed us down the steps. And even as I ran, I started to demorph. I was halfway back to human, a strange mix of mouse tail and huge ears and human legs, a scary-looking creature, the way Mickey Mouse would look if he'd been invented by Stephen King. Axe looked even worse, half mouse, half Andalite. Just as I was thinking, hey, this will all be fine, the entire world just flew apart. Crunch! Sunlight streamed down. The entire roof had been ripped away. The entire roof. Wood and beams and concrete just shattered and ripped and fell in huge chunks. I couldn't even make sense of it. I mean, the entire world around me was just being shredded. Shredded like the universe was being run through a food processor. Then I saw it. It was gigantic, enormous, a creature that seemed to be a creature that seemed to be made of nothing but teeth and blades and destruction. It was like 20 Hork-Bajir had been glued together and given dragon wings. It was ripping the house apart with unbelievable power. The noise was terrifying. The scream of ripping wood, the shattering crunch of concrete being torn up. Just torn up like it was nothing. Pipes bending, wires sizzling and popping as they exploded into showers of sparks. "Look out!" I yelled to Axe with my now human again voice. Beams were falling around us. Splinters were flying through the air. I barely noticed that I had finished morphing. I was human again. Somehow, Axe had kept his concentration and was fully in his human morph. We were defenseless. Two kids without a weapon between us. Above our heads, where there had been a house just seconds before, the beast hovered in the sun. It looked down at us with a dozen weird eyes that seemed to be stuck here and there at random. It stared at us the way I'd seen Tobias stare at his prey. It was going to destroy us. There was no question in my mind, and no question that it could. "Oh man," I moaned, "I don't like this." Then, the eyes all flickered at once. The beast seemed uncertain, and to my utter relief and utter amazement, the thing began to disperse. He became dust again, just a cloud of dust that thinned and disappeared. I was shaking so badly I couldn't stand up, but I was alive. All right, I think I will stop. Or should I do one more chapter, as it's a shorter one? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. Okay, this next one is much shorter, so I will do one more. Chapter 6, Rachel. I woke up. I was on my back, lying on a bed of pine needles and crispy dried leaves. I was staring up at the trees. The sun shone through the branches. My first thought was, what am I doing here? I had no idea how I had gotten to these woods, or even what woods these were. What am I doing here? I started to say out loud, but the words were garbled, mangled. They were more of a screeching than speaking actual words. I felt a tingle of fear. What was going on? What was going on? Why was I here? Why couldn't I talk? I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be. Where? Where should I be? I tried to concentrate. How did I come here? Where was I before? Where did I belong? But nothing came. Nothing. I couldn't remember how I'd gotten there. I couldn't remember where I had been. Ever. Suddenly, it hit me in a wave of dread that made my heart skip several beats. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my own name. I tried to sit up, and that's when I saw. I screamed in a weird, high-pitched shriek. My legs. My legs, they were encased in a black leotard, and I could see that the upper half of each leg was shaped like a normal human leg, but the ends, the bottom half suddenly changed shape, and from the bottom of the leotard, huge talons appeared. I looked at my hand. 5 fingers, 5 human fingers, but they sprouted with feathers. There were feathers sticking out of my flesh. I felt my face, skin on my cheeks and my neck. But then my bristling feathered fingers felt my mouth, and it was a beak, a hard, tearing beak. It was a nightmare. That was it. I was having a nightmare. I had to wake up. I had to get out of this dream. I screamed again, and the unhuman sound of my own voice frightened me still more. I had to control the panic. I had to. I had to. But my legs, my face, my hands. Don't panic, I ordered myself. You will not panic. You will not panic. This isn't real. And yet I could feel the pine needles beneath me and the warmth of the sun as it lanced. The warmth of the sun as it lanced through the branches. It all felt real. Was this how I always was? Was I some sort of freak? Half bird, half human? No, I knew that was wrong. And I knew that people did not become birds. And yet here I was, with feathers and a beak and no memory of who I was. I looked like some horrible creature who was halfway through changing from bird to human, or the other way around. Was that it? Had I been in the process of changing from one to the other? And which one was I really? Who was I? What was I? Come on, I ordered myself. Get a grip. Get a grip. But I could still feel screams boiling up inside of me. I could scream and scream and scream. No, no. Start that and you may never stop, I thought. Use your head. Think. I strained to remember, but it was as if half of my brain were wrapped in a dense fog. I couldn't see through it, no matter how I tried. You are a human, I told myself silently. You're a human, not a bird. And if you could change this far, maybe you can change more. I closed my eyes. I wanted to concentrate, and I did not want to see my body. Terror rattled through me, shaking my bones, churning my insides. I was human. I wanted to be fully human. Human again. Then I began to feel changes. I opened my eyes. As I watched, the talons shriveled. As I watched, the talons shriveled and split and became toes. It was revolting to watch. It made me sick. But then I realized something. As soon as I lost concentration, the changing stopped. That had to be it. I must have been changing, and something had broken my concentration. I could not stay the way I was. I was a nightmare. I had to get out. I felt a shadow over the sun. I thought it was a passing cloud. I couldn't let myself be distracted. I focused down again. Human. I wanted to be human. I felt the feathers melt into my skin. I felt my beak crack and become soft lips. The sun was very dim now. Something was blocking it. I felt a chill. I looked up. Just above the trees, a cloud of dust swirled wildly like some flattened tornado. It swirled and it concentrated. A dust cloud, but not a dust cloud, really. As I lay there, I had a terrible feeling. A feeling that this swirling, thickening cloud was watching me, considering me, focusing on me. But I could not allow myself to be distracted. I was still not fully human, and I wanted to be human again. Maybe once I was human, I would remember who I was. All right, and that is the end of that chapter. So we will call this a week, and I may give it another try on Thursday evening, see what the Wi-Fi bandwidth is like, but otherwise may have to continue with Sunday nights for another week or a few. But thank you so much for joining me, and happy Easter. Have a great night.